So you might know me, I was a journalist for many years here. So why did a journalist want to become a yoga teacher? Well, I guess I've been following the path of yoga my whole life. And when I actually went and did my yoga teacher training, it was then that I knew that I'd finally found the thing that I'd been working toward all of my life. I actually took my first yoga class when I was 11 years old at school, and they offered yoga as a sports substitute. So we cleared out the classroom and put all of the desks and the chairs to the side, and all of the students lay on the carpet, and I found my body moving into positions that I never thought it could move into. And being 11, I was made of rubber, so it was really good. I was able to do that. And I guess as the years went on, I kept dabbling in yoga. I would take different yoga classes, different styles of yoga, and it wasn't really until I was about 18 years old that I truly realised that the practice of yoga is more than just moving your body into positions. It's actually about meditation. And I found a group called the Marga, and they offered meditation retreats with a lot of yoga. And that's when I started my meditation practice, as well as my asana, my practice where I move my body. And with daily practice, I discovered the ability to calm my mind and my body at will. I might have been walking along the street and a scary situation might have come my way, and prior to having that experience of understanding I could control my breath and calm my heart rate through yoga, prior to that I might have panicked, my heart rate might have gone up, I might have started stressing, but straight away I was able to go, no, calm, and I was able to bring my body to a place of calmness. And that was from practicing daily. And then as the years went on, I'm sure some of you can relate to practicing daily and not practicing daily. I didn't practice regularly. And it wasn't really until about 10 years ago when I discovered Ashtanga yoga that I fell in love with yoga again, head over heels in love with Ashtanga yoga. And that's actually what I've just completed my yoga teacher training in. So I teach at the Yoga Space in Lismore with Annie McGee, and I teach Vinyasa Flow. But I truly believe that a lot of people think what yoga is. What is yoga when you think about it? People think it is moving your body, flexing your body, getting it into strange positions. Yoga is so much more than that. It's about breath control. It's about meditation. The history of yoga is at least 3,000 years old. And it wasn't actually until about the 2nd century that Patanjali, who a lot of people call the father of yoga, wrote the Yoga Sutras. And the second, they're like short statements which kind of are guidelines, making the practice of yoga accessible to people. And the second sutra says that yoga is about restraining the thoughts of the mind. That is what we're all working toward, restraining the thoughts of the mind. So many of us go through our daily lives so busy, so stressed, allowing ourselves to be ruled by how our mind works. And as a result, we get stressed, the stress takes control of our bodies, we get sick, our organs go into stress as well. So why should we practice yoga? We practice yoga because not only through the practice of asana, moving our bodies, we also learn the practice of controlling our minds. Now, asana practice was actually created to prepare the body for meditation. So a lot of us come to yoga for the very first time in our very first class because we've got sore muscles, or maybe we've got a bit of an injury and we've been told that, gentle stretching is the way to, overcome some of those physical limitations we have. And it's true, yoga does help with that. But once you start practicing yoga and you start coming to a yoga class, you'll find that when you start integrating breath control with the movement of your body, your life starts to change. And there's a little saying by Iyengar, who's a very famous yoga practitioner who's actually responsible for bringing yoga to the Western world. He basically says that yoga changes how we see things, but it doesn't just change how we see things, it changes the person who sees. And that's been so true of my experience with yoga. And I was actually speaking to some people before I stepped up on the stage about, what do you know about yoga? Do you like yoga? Is yoga something you do? And somebody actually said to me, you know, I'm more of a victim of yoga. And I said, what do you mean? And they said, well, once I started doing yoga, I realised I couldn't stop, because when I did, my life was missing something. And it's true, when we practice yoga, when we practice these postures that help us to increase our flexibility, they help us to gain stamina, they help us to gain awareness of our body, because so many of us have lost this intrinsic awareness of how our body is. And yoga, the practice of yoga, helps us to become aware of ourselves again. There's a lot of speculation about where did yoga come from. And if you were to say to somebody, what does yoga mean? Someone might say it means unity. But the actual root, the Sanskrit root of the word yoga, which comes from India, means to yoke. So when we practice yoga, it's about yoking our minds. And it wasn't until later on, as history progressed, because the practice of yoga changed over 2,000 to 3,000 years to respond to the needs of people. And we saw the different traditions of yoga take place. And yoga originally was about go and sit on a hill in a cave and meditate. Take yourselves away from the pursuits of the body and just go and sit and meditate and really get deep inside of yourself to find out who you really are. But that wasn't accessible to most of the people. Most of the people had lives to live, they had children, they had jobs to do. How can you go and do that when you need to live your life? So over a long period of time, hundreds of years, yoga got to the point where everybody said, well, to practice yoga, I need it to be pertinent to my life. And yoga started to become the practice of union, one with everything. Everything you can do in your daily life can help you toward the goals of yoga, which are to understand yourself and, I guess, to ask questions about who you are and where you're going in your life. So we learn certain mental practices when we do yoga. We learn how to be in the world. We learn what to do and what not to do. We learn practices. And this ultimately is helping us to become a better person. Recently in Northern Rivers schools, actually across Australia, they've introduced mindfulness meditation in primary and secondary schools. And basically, a few times a day, they take the children into a room, and for a few minutes, they get them to focus on focusing on their breath and on what's going on in their minds. And after a period of doing this in all of these schools, they found that there was not only a reduction in bullying in the playgrounds, but the students all reported reductions in stress levels and general increased well-being and happiness. From a very, very small thing such as stopping and focusing your mind and focusing on your breath a few times a day. So there's so much to be gained from taking the practices of yoga into our daily lives, and also to bring them into our school system, because the younger we are and we start to learn these practices and we grow into this world, we'll be healing ourselves and healing the people around us through our actions, by becoming aware of what we're doing. So quite a lot of people say to me sometimes as well, why should I come to a yoga class? And I'm sure we all want to be able to touch our toes or bend over or even be able to stand up from a sitting position when we're older. And practicing yoga will actually help us to do that. Increased flexibility is just one of the things we gain through the practice of yoga. So, breathing. Ultimately, are you aware of how you breathe? Do you breathe deeply? That's truly the core of yoga practice, and how I teach yoga. Your breath is so important. When you control your breath, you control your mind. How many people have been in stressful jobs every day? You get into a stressful situation. Oh my God, what am I going to do in this situation? If you stop, slow down, take lots of deep breaths, calm your mind and you realise that stressing about it's not going to help. By practicing yoga regularly, you will be able to remember and focus on these things more often. In fact, they say that people who practice yoga regularly and for a long time, and there are stories of the yogis of old who do this, they are able to, through the power of their mind alone, go in and heal their bodies. Now, you could just imagine how much practice you would have to do to be able to gain such control of the mind over the body. So it's something we can all aspire to, I guess. Longevity. There's even stories of, in India, yogis who practice meditation regularly. When they died, and I use the word loosely, their bodies didn't disintegrate. And there are stories of temples in India where that you go to a shrine in the middle of nowhere and there's actually a statue, which isn't a statue, it's actually supposedly a live body in which the spirit of the yogi has left the body but the body has remained alive. Now, in the Western world that we're in now, who are we to discount the power of yoga to that point? These are interesting stories, and I guess what we need to do is to take all the lessons of what yoga can offer us and see how we can integrate them into our lives at the moment. So, I guess to conclude, as well as calming us and opening our hearts to the world, increasing compassion, connecting with everyone around us, discovering who we are, Mahatma Gandhi had a beautiful saying, and he said, "Happiness is when what you think, what you say, and what you do are in harmony. Health is wealth, peace of mind is happiness, and yoga shows us the way." Thank you.